Hey everybody. Welcome to the first Building First Generational Wealth evening discussion, and one that I really just wanted to talk a little bit about. I don't know if anybody will be joining us for this. They could pop in, but probably not because I didn't market it at all, or push them at all. Mostly because about 10 minutes ago, I looked at my watch, I looked at my phone, and it said, "Oh, you're supposed to go live in 10 minutes." And I went, "Oh, I totally forgot about it." Which has nothing to do with me not caring, because this is a very important project to me, both currently live and then the recordings and stuff, if they ever are used ever again. No idea if there will be or not, but just where we are right in life. Okay, so we're super busy, right? So as many of you know, that at this time period, so it's the 20th of September of 2023 as I record this, and we were just hit by a hurricane about 2 weeks ago, and destroyed, totaled both of our vehicles, and sent a tree right through the middle of the single story part of our house. So everything's good, everybody's good, and it's going to work out great. We're already, seeing, oddly, the benefits of it is that my wife and I are, we had both driven, this is some tips on wealth building too, we've both driven 2005 vehicles, that were, and we buy them quite old when we get them. So we buy them about 13 years old, and we drive them for about 6 years on average. And so, so we're now, both of us have bought Toyota vehicles that are 2011, both of them are, and they have, um, one, we just really lucked out. It only had 49,000 miles on this Highlander. So that's really cool. We had to snatch that up. Bought slightly at below market value from an individual. And then the just tonight, we had to drive to Nashville, Georgia, and of course drive back. And I bought me another Camry, a Toyota Camry, which I just love those. And it's again in 2011, but it has 2000 and 201,000 miles on it. So, but it will, we know these vehicles will last forever, and we don't care. We drive them into the dirt anyway. So far, and I was just driving this going, wow, this is my car. It's so, I love my other car, and this one is so much nicer. It's got so many features. It's I didn't even to begin to integrate, like, how is it going to, it can integrate with my phone. I'm excited about that. So, and again, we paid, bought from an individual and paid for below market value on those. So we just kind of look for a long time. So there was a post recently in the community that said, what is your best tip for saving money? And there's lots of things that I could speak into. There's a lot of things that I kind of mind, the tiny things, in life. If you know me at all, I watch the amount of napkins that we use. Yeah, that sounds a little miserly, but I will admit that one of my sons, who has ADHD, will take a napkin, wipe his mouth, set it down, take another napkin, wipe his mouth. Say, soon he'll have a pile about as tall as he is of napkins. So I learned to only put so many on the table. So little things. But when you're doing a big purchase, especially something that depreciates, and I think there's no better example than a car, is there's very few cars that when you buy them that actually appreciate. We saw the phenomenon of trucks appreciating in value during COVID, where dealerships were calling and people that they had sold trucks to a year ago and said, we'll give you all your money back plus $10,000, plus $12,000 if you will give it to us, because they know that they could sell them, at a higher rate. So that's an unusual circumstance. The other example of that is a classic car, which I may get into at some point in my life. That they can have a tendency to not only sustain their value, or sell them for the same price that you bought them 5 years ago. They can also have a tendency to appreciate, but I do have upkeep expenses that are involved with them as well. So I'm not sure that there's always a profitable situation there. So houses have a tendency to always appreciate, and we have had a wonderful scenario in our house in the last couple of years. We bought it for 175. Its current Zillow rating, whatever that is worth or not, is somewhere around $250,000. So it's gone up in value. And that's what we call normal appreciation. It's appreciation that happens normally. It goes up with the, typically it's tied to the inflation rate, right? So other products and services, the price of eggs, etc., goes up, and so does your house, right? So a house has a tendency to always go up. Rarely does it go down, during age, until it's kind of its end of its life cycle, right? That needs to be demolished, demoed. But even in those cases, if people have maintained the house, they're basically slowly replacing the parts that can be replaced, and they don't necessarily ever have to be demoed. It's typically the area in which they were built. Here in Valdosta, we have a historical area in the downtown area where there is some beautiful wraparound porches, very fancy houses that, if you were to rebuild them today, would just cost, $3 million for this, this house. And you could buy it for 50,000 because it's in the wrong neighborhood. People don't want to live in that neighborhood, right? And so, including the oldest house that's in Valdosta, recently had caught fire. Not recently, about 2 years ago. But the Historical Society was raising money to rebuild it. It's a glorious looking house, right? But it's neat to drive by and look at it and go, wow, they put a circular shaped window way up there on the third floor and stuff. But still wouldn't want to live. Most people would not want to live in that neighborhood. So all that to say this is that we talk a lot about the mindsets that we have. Kind of start at the top. You hear us talk a lot about, even last week during the live presentation, is Amy talked about having that scarcity mindset in the beginning. I can totally identify with that. And now she has she's traded that for an abundance mindset, which is awesome. So we use the illustration of pies, is that a scarcity mindset is there's only one pie, and I have to fight so that my slice of it gets bigger, but in doing so, someone else's slice has to get smaller, right? And while it's just not true, there's infinite pies. Go create another pie. It's wonderful about entrepreneurs is we can create money out of nothing, right? You see a need and create an opportunity to be able to fulfill that need. And it really does create new economy. If you wondered why some economies all over the world are doing well and some are not at the same time, some economies in the same like the United States, or some parts of the United States that the economy is not doing well there, and yet other places that it's booming, right? There's some in the same state, right? Could even whittle down to the same area, the same town, that there's parts of it that are doing very well and parts of it are not. And so a lot of that has to do, I'm not a mindset person, like it changes or bends reality. No, it opens up your mindset, opens your mind to new possibilities, to be able to see things differently and be able to see opportunities where maybe other people see limitations. When I had one of a major transformation, I've been in this for years, right? And for me to really, probably one of the best examples of me shifting over from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset was how some businesses are complicated. I've thought about going into that business, but I was like, immediately intimidated by, oh my gosh, there's lobbyists in there. They're trying to regulate. You have to, oh man, you'd have to get this kind of certification even to be around that chemical product, whatever, right? And it complicates the situation. There's another way of saying that. There's low barriers to entry and high barriers to entry. So what I'm talking about with the complication is a high barrier to entry. Is that if I wanted to start, one that I'm familiar with because I used to work in one, was a carpet cleaning company, right? So there's chemicals there that they use that are not used, and you can't buy them over the counter, and you have to have specialized training in order to use them, right? And so that made it a complicated scenario. Clean carpet, there's the day in, day out stuff, man. There's several people that worked at the same place that I worked, and they went and bought a truck and started their own. It became the competition, right? It was not a difficult, don't need real a big brain to, clean carpet, right? But someone on staff or the owner had to go through some kind of material management certification and be able to say, yes, we can have this chemical on our shelf that we know needs to be diluted at this rate, and where you can use it and where you can't. And you have to use respirators maybe while you're using it, that kind of thing. Someone on staff had to do that, or you get in big trouble. You could not have that cleaning chemical there, for example, because that's just a silly example in some ways of a high barrier to entry, but it's not a super high one, because all you got to do is, if you don't want to get the certification as the owner of your company, you hire somebody who does, right? You can even hire a consultant that can sometimes be a 1099 employee with you, that consults with the team and tells them how to use that chemical. And they're, on paper, they're part of your staff, right? So there's lots of ways to get around what feels like, which intimidates and shuts down most people. What you and I have to do is, we can't be most people. We can't be immediately intimidated by that. This has been another huge trial and tribulation that I had to, overcome in my own walk. And it was about, some of you have heard the story, but about 2019, I get a strange word that I believe comes from God. He just gives me kind of a theme for the year. Here's what we're going to work on this year. And it was like the Nike slogan. They just said, just do it, but it was just do it afraid. And if I would notice that I was procrastinating on something or moving away from something that seemed scary to me, I would immediately shift and go, I'm not scared of that. And I charged after that. I had to prove to myself that I could learn marketing. I could learn whatever, how to do Facebook ads. I could learn, these things that just don't come naturally to me, or to something that I necessarily want to do. So, and I don't have to learn everything. I can connect with somebody who knows how to do those things, and I can pay them to do that, or partner with them to do those things that I don't really necessarily want to learn, right? So that's all within the possibilities, right? So there's an infinite amount of possibilities. We can create those infinite pies. Most people will be shut down by how complicated a particular business is, and will go, oh, I can't do that. I don't have the qualifications. Well, you don't need the qualifications. Hire somebody who does, right? Recently, there's a young man. I met him when he was a teenager, just a few years ago, and he started buying up and creating all of these insurance-driven hospitals that do detox and rehab, right? The insurance-driven or entitlement-driven, meaning that Medicaid, Medicare, will pay that, or insurance, right? And it's quite a bit of money, right? Because why? Because it's complicated. You got to have a medical director that's a doctor. You have to have certified and licensed staff, right, that do the therapy. You have to have all these things in place. And the person who's in charge of the cleaning crew probably needs some kind of material handling certification, right? So it all comes into play there. But the more complicated that it is, when people look at that and go, I can't start a hospital, right? Here's some little teenage guy. I mean, he's like in his early 20s. And he's like, I can do, why not? I can do it. I can start a hospital, right? Well, I don't have to be a doctor. I hire a doctor, right? Doctor doesn't work for him full time. The doctor has his practice, and he does this other thing that he does over here. And then he has this other little side hustle, contract that he's doing with them, right? He might work for them. I don't know, but he might work for them 2 hours a month, signing off on stuff. Who knows, right? As medical director, who knows how all that works? But that's what intimidates people and shuts them down from trying something. And there's certain personalities that have a tendency to kind of rise like cream to the top, that just aren't so easily intimidated. Those are the people that have a tendency to try more things, fail more times, learn from them, get up and try more stuff, keep trying, keep failing, doing back and forth, and eventually hit something that works and become very wealthy, right? That it doesn't mean that that's the only personality that can do that. I don't have that personality, but I can learn from it and go, all I got to do is fail and be okay with it, which was this year's thing, was fail faster. And so I'm failing fast. I like that, right? There's something about that that has helped me to be able to detach from the outcome. If you've listened to any of the other videos here, you probably heard about me starting the Glamper in our backyard, right? And just being ready for it to be a complete failure. The theme that year was do it looking foolish. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to look foolish. I don't care, right? This is to help me not care what other people think. And that is something that, if you're honest with yourself and you're here and you're listening to this video right now, you struggle with. that you care about what other people think. That if you say, oh man, if I tell my family that I want to start this business or I want to do this thing, they will tell me every reason in the world why it's not going to work. And you're right. So don't tell them. You need a different kind of family. They're your family, you keep them as your family, but you need another support network to be able to help you in your entrepreneurialism. So you might call them your entrepreneurial family, people that support you no matter what. Now that, it'd be great if this evolved into a mastermind group where we all gathered together, weekly or monthly and, submitted our ideas and said, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And people might have some, constructive criticism for you, right? Not to shut you down, but to help you go faster. Oh, you're going to need a special use permit for that. Oh, I don't even know what that means. I never did permitting before. Oh, it's no big deal. All right. You just go down, you fill out this application and talk with them and let them know what you're wanting to do, get a feel from them, right? Try to humanize. The people in the permit office are humans. And the more you treat them like a human, the more they're going to treat you like a human too. Wink, wink. All right. And you'll get further, farther, faster with real humans that you are kind to and that you are vulnerable with and that you're honest with and transparent with. I have found that even though I have wanted to do, this is going to come out wrong, but several illegal things right now, the Airbnb in my backyard is illegal. Okay, why? Well, Valdosta doesn't have a policy on Airbnb, so there's no rule for it, and so I can't actually even apply for a business license for it, and it's not permitted, right? So the next space that I get, it will be permitted. That'll be part of the reason why we buy that particular property. It will be permittable and licensable, or excuse me, have a business license, and it will be allowed, right? For that. They all know that I do this Airbnb in the backyard, but they what they but they're like, we're not going to do anything to shut you down. It all looks good. They've been out here, they've looked at the plumbing, they looked at the sewage, they looked at everything and said, all looks good. It's just you don't have a permit. And I'm like, I can't have a permit. And they're like, I know. So we're not going to do anything until somebody complains. Hey, Amy, glad that you joined us. I didn't advertise this, so I'm just kind of riffing for a little bit. I thought maybe I would talk next about one of the topics that you brought up, Amy, in the group, which is, what do we, how do we get to next level, right? It is normal for us to grow, kind of just shifting gears now. We had talked about scarcity and mindset, our mindset and shifting, not being afraid, doing things anyway. That there's complexity is to our advantage. If you're wanting to get into an industry that is complex, that is wonderful because it will run off about 90% of your potential competition. They'll just go, oh, that's too complex. I don't want to do that. As long as you don't get intimidated by the process and you stick with it and you network and meet people that have done it, right? Whether they're here or in Zimbabwe, it doesn't matter, that you're getting guidance from somebody who has done what you want to do, no matter where they are in the world, right? You've got what they don't have. And so you'll be able to start the business and do it whenever they just don't even try, right? So just try, just do it, right? And if you get 3 months into it and you're like, I hate this business, I don't like it, shut it down, right? Or sell it, whatever, right? You don't have to stick with it. You don't have to be there forever, right? I had a restaurant when I started when I was 21 years old, which is a really dumb time of life to be signed up to be inside 4 walls for 16 hours a day, for 2 years. That's not the time of life, to be so pinned, down. And I loved it until I hated it. And then when I hated it, I was like, I hate this, and I'm shutting it down, right? And I had great experience, learned a lot, shut it down, right? So don't be so like me. Don't be so loyal to your idea in its current form. Mentoring a young man, we were meeting for lunch last week. He said, I really want to do this, and this is why I want to do it, right? And I said, okay, have you considered starting smaller and starting this way, right? And he said, yes. People suggest that to me, but it won't contain the thing that I want. I said, well, Rome wasn't built over a day, right? You're going to have to start small and build up. There's a beautiful scripture. I use it in so many different times of my life, which says, do not despise small beginnings. It's actually the title of my book on how to, or my course on how to do Airbnbs. Don't despise, small beginnings. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't hate the idea of starting small because you want this big thing up there, right? And what you're doing right now doesn't contain the element that you're attracted to. It doesn't contain the thing that you're doing it for. Okay, well, that's normal. You just got to do the work, put in the time, and get to that place. Then that'll be your reward, in the future. What if I get there and I don't like it? Sell it, shut it down, whatever, right? You are not bound in any of these things. You can continue to do what you want to do and go on next. This gets us to kind of the topic that I wanted to riff on a little bit here. And Amy, you feel free to unmute and chime in and stuff. As mentioned, I just bought a car. Yay! Because my other one is flat with a tree on it during the hurricane. And the guy, I kind of knew the guy who was selling it to me, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and he had a family member there with him, I think an uncle. And his uncle was kind of giving him a hard time because he has owned so many different businesses and then goes on, right? And then even now he's got this one that's really, really working very well. It's trying to pull his time, from him, kind of, suck his time. And yet he's got this idea. He's always got lots of ideas. And I said, dude, you're an idea guy. Accept it, right? The worst thing that you could do is try to become somebody who is a maintainer, because you're not a maintainer or manager. You are someone who creates and sees vision and goes somewhere. You're directing the process, or a director. One of the worst bosses I've ever had in my entire life, right? I've had lots. You probably have too. But I think about the element that made them a really bad boss is that their title was director. It was something director, right? So the directors are like, we're going here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to take that out, and we're going to put this in, and we're going to, we're going to get, somewhere. Like, piloting a ship, we're going somewhere. His title should have been manager, right? Because all he knew how to do, all he wanted to do was maintain the status quo, don't change, right? He was managing, he was maintaining. There's nothing that he was saying, okay, we need to improve or we need to go into a different direction. So it was not within his capacity, right? And in some ways, those kind of people drive me crazy. I just want to say, and I told this to my guy that was selling me the car. I said, your problem is right now is that you've got to follow the acronym that we've talked about here, which is DAD, D-A-D. You guys can remember that. Delegate, automate, or delete. Okay. Everything that we do that multiplies our time will go under those three categories. Will fit in there, right? And he was really intrigued by that. I said, God knit you together in your mother's womb to be the person who has the ideas. I said, you should never try. You start a business, you get it going, you get the systems in place, and then all of a sudden you get bored with that thing and probably subconsciously sabotage so that it goes down the drain because you're ready to do something new. You got to accept that about yourself. That's who you are. The serial entrepreneurs are like that, right? They like to build businesses, right? And then all of a sudden, once it's built, the challenge of it is no longer there. And that when it goes like, okay, this is great, we just got to maintain this, all of a sudden they're turned off, man. Get me out of here, right? I want to go on to the next thing. Well, people make tons of money doing that. They build it up to the place where they now need a maintainer, and they are constantly during this whole process. They might have hundreds, thousands of employees now at this point, and every job that they used to do, they work themselves out of that job and train somebody else to do it so that they could move up, kind of stepping up every time, right? And building systems to train the next guy, replacing yourself. And so you want to hire, what I told the guy who was selling me the car, I said, your problem is that you don't, the people that you need in your life right now, you don't like. Why? Because you can't relate to them. You're not going to be friends with them because to you, they seem lazy, like they don't want to do anything. And you don't understand them because they don't really want to go anywhere in their life the way that you do. This isn't a criticism of any kind of person. It's just our perceptions, or particularly his perceptions of the people that he's hired in his business. He immediately identified this guy and his uncles. They both said the dude's name at the same time. I said, he's who you need to rise up to replace you so that you can get out of there and get onto your next idea. He's like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. So you need to start delegating more stuff to this guy, right? Automating your process through all the technology that we have nowadays. It's so easy, right? And then delete, get stuff off of your list. You know, if it's on your list and you haven't challenged yourself, why am I doing this every week? Everything that you need to go, why am I doing this? Am I getting, you know, do a risk benefit analysis on it? You know, is it sucking time? Am I getting enough benefit from doing it? If it's not so, scratch it off, just delete it. Don't delegate it to somebody else to do. Don't automate it so that it gets done. If there's some things that just need to go. That was the old way of doing things. We got a new way of doing things. Go. There's so many companies out there, including huge companies like Coca-Cola, that, you know, someone get a consultant that comes in and does analysis of their business for a year, 2 years, and they go, and their findings are, okay, why are you doing this? Well, we've always done that. No, we can't accept that as a reason. Why are you doing this? What if we stopped doing it? What would happen? Nothing. Okay, well, stop doing it. Right? That's taking people's energy and time. So DAD, delegate, automate, delete. Now, some of you are listening to me and you're like, I haven't even started my business, or I've started a little bitty side hustle here. I don't have employees to delegate to. I don't have, you know, but you can. You really can. In today's world, you can hire people that are on the other side of the world to do things for you. I have done it dozens of times. We call them VAs, or virtual assistants, but you can get a temporary virtual assistant that just does a task for you, right? TaskRabbit is one of the places, you know, Fiverr. You can go online, freelancer.com. You can go in there and you can hire somebody to do something for you. And then they do that one task. You pay them a agreed upon amount and they zip it over to you and it's done, right? That's a fantastic thing to do. It's beautiful because for example, you know, I had one create a logo for me. I had another one. I've had dozens to build my website, you know, years ago. I am a commercial artist. You know, I have 2 years of commercial art. I can build I can do a website. I can do a logo, right? I have enough tech skills in me to know how to build one of those presets websites like Square, right? You know, those kind of things that are just kind of plug and play. You just fill it in. But I didn't have the time, right? So I paid this guy on somewhere on the other side of the world $5. I was on Fiverr.com. I sent him all the, you know, here, I want it simple. I want 5 pages. Here's the content for the 5 pages. I want the logos on these places here. I want the tabs to work, blah, blah, blah. And I zipped them over to him. I've hired him at 11 o'clock at night. I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was done. I don't know how long he worked on it. Sometime in the middle of my night, his day, he did it for me, and it was done. Right, it was over. And $5 to him where he lived was quite a bit of money. And $5 to me where I live is not very much money at all. And so it's economies. You know, you can use this to be able to help yourself, right? So we're not talking about getting to the point where you need hundreds of employees that you can delegate to. We're talking about $5. You can do that. All right. This is all within the realm of possibility that you can do now, right? Automation. So many websites, so many things. When you are going to, when you are on the course website, my website, it just looks like caseycocorbin.com to you, but that is actually Podia that I pay for. I pay $79 a month for to use their website, and that they keep the memberships, you know, working, and they do the bills, they do the money. I don't have to touch the money, right? You know, this gets deposited in my bank account. Thank you. And 83 courses that I've created on there, which is, where did those come from? You know, those are things that were so easy to do. Just plug and play, right? Add AI to the mix and it's 10 times easier than it used to be, 100 times easier than it used to be. These are something that are within your grasp. You could do those things now, right? AI does the grammar and the spelling. So if you're like, I'm not a good writer, writing, you know, keep writing a good prompt to tell it what you want, what you like, what you don't want, and it will do that for you in perfect grammar. It's a machine. All right. Computer will do it right for you. All right. So DAD, DAD, delete, I'm sorry, delegate, automate, or delete. These are the only three ways that you can expand your time, right? So the question on the group was, I'm stuck, but I just don't feel like I have the time to move forward, right? So you're going to have to, I promise you, there's no way around this. You're going to have to use DAD. You're going to have to delegate, delete, or automate in order for you to expand your time. If you don't know how to do that yet, then there's the rub. And that's where it helps to hang around other people that have. I wouldn't have considered using a VA in the past if I hadn't met people that use them. Said, go on Fiverr. I'm like, oh, I'm scared of Fiverr. It seems like a scam. How can this work? And they're like, I use it all the time. How many projects have you done? 60. Oh, wow. Okay. I'll try it. I tried it. I like it. I'd jump on there tomorrow and do another one. Right. It's a new mindset, a new way of thinking. So, all right. Well, that was basically everything I just wanted to share in this brief little video. We'll probably title this one about, how to expand your time, right? How to change your mindset, right? How to conceive of things differently than we have before is always first. I know that a lot of people listening are like, no, Casey, give me the nitty gritty. How do I create wealth? Your mindset stuff is boring me. I'm sorry, but the internals always precede the externals. Until you get the internals fixed, you can't have the externals, right? You got to get your mindset adjusted, or at least some where you are expanded so you can see the realm of possibility, which is bigger and more than you thought before, for you to be able for that to show up in your reality. It's just some people think, oh, that's kind of scary. Amy says it begins with the end in mind. Absolutely. Yeah, beautiful. Some people say, oh, that sounds like witchcraft or new agey, or something like that. For the Christians listening, okay, what's the Bible say? It says, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Where does it start with? Internal. Where's the results take place? External. So I become, right? And I think we'll just kind of end with this. The theme of this year again was fail faster, and I've had some great failures. I mean, I'm delighted in the amount of failure that I've been able to accomplish. And I'm not joking. People think I'm, being tongue in cheek or sarcastic about that, but I literally have a feeling of delight in my gut whenever I fail, because I was not attached to the outcome. That outcome didn't define me, right? Had a business partnership that we dissolved last week, right? And I had big hopes for that, but it wasn't going. We had irreconcilable differences on how it should be ran. So we did an amicable split. Still going to get paid. And, we dissolved that joint venture agreement, JVA. And it's a win-win. I am glad to be disconnected from it. He's glad that I'm disconnected from it. He can take it into the direction that he wants to go in, and he's learned what works, for him, and it probably will work out just fine. But that wasn't a good fit for me, so I had to go. Is it a failure? Yeah, technically, yeah. Is it something I learned a lot from? So much that I've learned. Right? I'm not sad about that. I really am not sad about that at all. And I'm excited about the next opportunity, because fully 90% of the work that I put into that was probably somewhere around 900 hours, maybe, 1,000 hours of my literal time. I am going to be able to reuse that, and it won't take me 900 to 1,000 hours to do it again the next time. The work's already done. It's already been built. I just kind of plug and play it, right? And over. So these are the things that we learn as we fail. We get great learnings. I used to be defined by my successes, what I was known as. Oh, Casey is known as a good counselor working in this area. He's really good, right? And I would be defined by that. I'm the PTSD guy. I can work with people with trauma. And now I don't think of myself that way at all. I think I'm defined by how much I learn as I go through the process. Where does that leave us? Where does that leave you? Well, you're in a process of doing something different, of becoming a different person. And that's the real value, being different. who you are this time next year, who you are 10 years from now is the really exciting part. And we use all those learnings. You learn more from your failures than your successes. Embrace it, right? And then a weird side benefit comes in place. When you fail, like I have recently, I don't care. Like cool, I had some hopes and dreams. All right, that's a little sad. I'm not going to be a part of that, potential, of that business 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I learned a lot. It was a great experience. I would, if I had to do it over again, I would do it. Right. I got more from it than I lost, and I learned a ton. So that's where my heart is now. Hope it is for you too. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off here. Those of you that watch this in video form later, hope this rambling made some kind of sense. If it didn't, please put in the comments, could you clarify this, because you dropped off here. I probably left some dangling participles or dangling stories there. Cool.
Thanks,
Amy,
Casey.
your mic off?
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
I was just saying thank
Good
you.
night.